Welcome into the sewing room. It's all new. I've got it all moved from one side of the room to the other corner. I have like a whole corner here. Look at this. See, there's the windows. I'm gonna try to show it to you all. Got white foam board and felt on my walls. I do, so things will hang easily. There's my little welcome sign to welcome you all. And the mister's building me some more shelves. Here's one of the shelves that we had, and that's another one that we had, but it's kind of falling apart. So he's building me a better one for there for fabric. And then our wall, our fun wall to put all of our stuff on. Look at our big tables. We've got 1, 2, 3 big tables that are, I'll turn y'all back down a little bit, 36 by 72. Yes, 3 of them. They were library tables. They were in a public library. You know, I told you all about him going on this auction site, and I thought I was getting 1 table. But when we got all the information and figured, you know, in the end, he said, I think I get 3. And I said, yes, you do get 3. And yay, that means I get 3. Yes, yes, yes. So I got these 3. They're solid wood, and I mean to tell you, these tables weigh a ton. They are so heavy. Solid tables. And I'm debating, I've got to figure out where I want to put this machine so I can decide if I want to cut a hole in it and submerge my machine to make it level with the tabletop. I really want to do that, but I've got to get used to sewing in this space and decide exactly what table I want that machine in. I don't know if I want it here or over on the other table. I don't know. So we're going to play, we're going to figure out where we want things, how we want them organized. And since we're talking about organizing, I've had so many people request and ask me question after question. So I'm going to try to answer some questions in this video. We're not going to do a sewing project in this one, but I am going to try to answer a bunch of questions. A bunch of questions about what I use the most, what I like, what I don't like, what I can't live without, what I can live without, what I wish I'd never bought in the first place, kind of situations. Okay, so if you are a beginner sewer, you're brand new, you say, I want to learn to sew, what do I need? Well, to start with, you need a machine. You need a good basic machine. And I've got 2 or 3 in my Amazon storefront. One of them I bought. It's a Brother. I've got a separate video on that. I will link to this description in the bottom of this box, and I'll try to put it at the end of the video so you can go back and watch the 2 machine reviews that I did. One on the little Brother machine. It's just around $300. A little less than $300. Very, very good beginner basic sewing machine. Light as a feather. It's not heavy, so you don't have to worry about if you have to pick it up and move it around, cart it around, whatever. It's very lightweight. So you need a sewing machine, and you need to know how to use it, and it will come with a book of instructions that you need to read, you need to follow. All machines are different. I don't care if you've been sewing your entire life like I have. When I get a new machine, I read that book because they're all different. They're all different. No 2 machines are alike unless they're exactly, unless it's the same machine. But they're all the same, but they're all different. So you need to read and see how your machine works. And I can't tell you that because I don't know what kind of machine you have or what you might buy. Okay, so there's that deal for our machine. Now for all of our little accessories. First off, we need fabric. And I've got tons of it. Some people have way more than I do. Some people have a lot less. But if you're a brand new sewer, you want to pick a project, something simple, like a pillowcase, a simple tote bag, and I'm going to do one of those. I've got a couple, 3 little simple tote bag projects I want to do with you all. Simple, easy peasy tote bag, a simple pillowcase, something very simple. Straight seams, very simple, okay? That's what you want to start with, because if you have success, then you will be pleased and you will enjoy the process and you will want to do it again. If you start with a more difficult project and you don't understand your basics to begin with, then you get frustrated and I don't want to do this anymore, and you give up, okay? It's like anything. Babies don't start running. They start crawling, then they walk, then they run. Okay, so that's kind of the basics with anything new that you do. You need to start out small and progress. Okay, and that's what I've done. My mama sewed, so I started out with a whole bunch of stuff because I just used what she had, but she was always there to help and encourage me along the way if I had a problem. But the one thing that I want to tell you all is this, and this is what I tell everybody that I teach to sew. If you are not willing to take it out, do not put it in. You all have seen me rip out more times than I care to count. I have ripped out and ripped out and ripped out, but I always come back and I fix it and I put it back in. Okay? That's just part of sewing, is ripping. So you need a seam ripper. That's the second thing we need, is a seam ripper. And I've got these, and I've got another one somewhere. Let me find it. I forgot to get it out. Here we go. All right. These are single blade seam rippers. See this? And they're also called a scalpel. It's a scalpel. When I bought these off of Amazon as seam rippers because I had purchased one at Joann's that was very similar to this, and it was like $8. And I thought, dang, that's expensive. I'm going to see if I can find some cheaper. Well, I did. I found some at Amazon, and when they came in the little foil package that it's in, it's literally a medical scalpel, and it says disposable scalpel on it. Okay? So if y'all need to perform surgery on your sewing projects, you need a scalpel. I really like these, especially for cutting buttonholes. These do real well. The thing about them is they are sharp, and I mean super-duper sharp. I've cut my hands all to pieces with them, and you have to be extremely careful because you will cut a hole in your fabric, okay? So be very cautious if you're using this type of a seam ripper. I love them, but here's a type of seam ripper, and you will get one with your machine, no doubt. You will probably get one that looks like this, okay? Has a little red ball right here to keep you from snagging your fabric on this point. This one right here is sharp, and it cuts the thread in the middle. Oh, I'm sliding, y'all. Right here, it will. Let me see if I can get a piece of paper to put up behind here or something. Goodness me. Maybe this will work. Yeah, now in that little curved part right there in the middle, that is where you'll clip your threads. This one just happens to come with it. I bought this one hundreds of years ago, I guess, and it slides. Well, it's supposed to slide. This right here slides. I'm gonna zoom y'all in just a little bit. There you go. This right here slides. It's got a little thing right here. See how that slides in and out? And now it's closed. Now then, the other side, if you push down on it and push that direction, this one's old, like I said, has a pair of tweezers, which can be very valuable when you are pulling threads, okay? And that takes me to my next thing. Tweezers. Y'all are sitting up there. I'm going to sit y'all down here just a little bit so y'all can see. Now then. Alright, let me get this fixed. Alright, now let's try this. Tweezers. And I like bent tweezers. These are great. They pull threads. They're great if you have a serger, but if you're starting out, you're not going to have a serger. That's not going to be the first machine you buy. I sewed for probably 40 years before I ever got a serger. Okay, so it's not something that you need to sew with, is a serger. I just zigzagged my seams forever, and it works great. Do I like my serger? I love it. If I had to choose, I'd get rid of it and keep my other machine, because it does everything. This one will not. It will just sew straight stitches, and it will do a little rolled hem. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Tweezers. Tweezers, you're dropping things. You're needing to reach into a tight space. Okay, I had to step away and take a phone call. All right, so we were on our tweezers. We love tweezers. You need a good pair of tweezers in your sewing box. Of course, you need thread. All-purpose thread, cotton thread, is what I would start with if I'm making a project using cotton fabric. I would start with 100% cotton thread or poly cotton blend thread kind of thing. That's kind of what I would start with. And next you're going to need something to cut that fabric with, depending on what you're cutting. Now, if you're cutting a tote bag, if you're cutting something that squares, if you're cutting something that you're going to be cutting straight pieces, maybe a pattern just gives you dimensions of your pattern pieces and there's no curves, there's no actual paper pattern piece for you to cut. I like my rotary cutters. Here's one of them. Here's two of them. Here's three of them. I've had multiple rotary cutters. This is a 60 millimeter. If you're going to cut several thicknesses at one time, or if you're going to cut something that is thick and heavy, you want this 60 millimeter, okay? These two are both the same size. They're 45 millimeter. This one has a slide to open, and that opens it. See how that blade is open? And then that pushes that back, closes this so that it's not sharp and you won't cut your arm off. This one has a locking button right here. See, I cannot do that. When I push this in from this side, I can open it. And you see how that opens that up when I squeeze this? See that? I like this one. I do. Because you can unlock it and cut and set it down and cut, and when you release it, it closes it, okay? And it also locks it so that if you've got littles around, they cannot, it's harder for them to figure out how to get to this one. All right, so this one has a more of a safety feature on it that I really like. However, these, because of the thickness of this in here and the way this one is, you have to cut with this side, your ruler, and this have to be like this, okay? You have to cut on this side of your ruler. All right, cutting with this one, you can cut on this side, or this side. So this one is more versatile, okay? This one is a little safer. So depending on what you're going to be doing with it and whether you have littles around and so forth, that'll determine what you buy. You can get these sizes from 60 millimeter down to, I'm not even sure, maybe 18. I also have a 28. I'm not a huge fan of the little ones, because if I'm going to cut something that I need to cut a curve with, I'm probably going to use scissors. Just because I'm not good at cutting curves with a rotary cutter. Some people are. Some people do great with it. I do not. So, therefore, I'm going to choose to use a pair of scissors. To go along with your rotary cutter, you need some rulers. And I've got a gazillion rulers. No, you don't need a gazillion rulers. If you can only afford one, this is the one you want. It is 6 inches wide by 24 inches long. Okay? This is the one I use 90% of the time. You can cut anything with it. You can cut a whole width of fabric with one ruler. Nose is itching. And I really, really like this one. I use it. And then this one is 6.5 inches by 12. Okay, is this one right here, 6.5 by 12. I use it a lot. You all see me using it a lot when I'm cutting quilt pieces, things like that. And I use this one just because it's not quite as long as this one. Now, this is the question I get the most often. What are these little gadgets that go on the back of my ruler? And they go on here and they clip just like this. Can y'all see I've got that set right there at 4? Let's see if I got a piece of paper right here. Can y'all see that now? Now it's better, okay? They slide like this. And they put a little bitty lip right here so that you can slide your fabric up to it. You don't want to push it. You slide your fabric up to it and you know it's going to be straight, okay? And you're not having to really worry about holding it. And this is what they are. They are in my Amazon storefront. I did not have these until Christmas of this year, okay? This past year, 2024 at Christmas is when I got those. Because I saw them and thought, you know what? Those look like they would be the absolute neatest things in the world to have, and I want them. So they're going on my Christmas list. And they did. And I got them. This is what they are called right here. There you go. All right. Now then, it shows you how to use them on here. These are called Guidelines for Quilting. Quilting Ruler Upgrade Kit. Okay. This is for 12 and 24 inch rulers. They've got others. They have multiple things in this company that makes these. These are made in the USA, which I truly love that about them. Also works with 12.5 and 24.5 inch rulers for right or left-handed use. All our products are made in USA. Guidelinesforquilting.com. Okay, so y'all go on my Amazon storefront, check these out, order you some. You will love them. Are they necessary? No. The beginning quilter need them? No. Do I like them? Yes, absolutely. Okay, now then, while we're talking about rulers, I'm going to try to lay these things back here that I've gone over with you all so I can kind of get things organized. This right here, this is another thing that I got for Christmas. It's got suction cups, and it's to go on your rulers, okay, to hold them. Put it down here like this, clip it on, and it'll hold your ruler. You got a handle on it, right? I like it. The thing I don't like about it is the fact that, number one, it is very large. You can only use it on this 24 inch ruler, really. It's just too big for anything else. And it kind of hides some of your lines, so you have to continually move it. Do I use this? I don't. I don't use this at all. It's also the same thing you can pick up at Walgreens or Walmart or somewhere like that you put in a shower for a handle, because I have one exactly like it downstairs in the shower. Okay? That was my mother-in-law's. Exact same thing. So, I don't like that one. These, however, I do like. These come from Harbor Freight. These are also a Christmas gift. These are what mechanics used to pull dents out of cars. All right, that's what this is, a dent puller. And they're maybe $3, $3 or $4 a piece. Are they strong? Yes. You push it down, you clip it. There you go. Same thing, your handle. It will also fit on smaller ones. I like these. All right, I've got 2 big ones. The small ones. Do you need these handles? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You do not have to have these handles. I'm just showing you what I have. I will tell you if you need it. You need thread, you need fabric, you need a machine. We're going to go over needles in a minute. Here's a small one, little baby one. This one came from somewhere. Does the same thing, but it works well on small rulers. There again, it was just a few dollars. All right, you've got square rulers. And I'm going to go over all those extra rulers just a little bit later. You also need a cutting mat. A cutting mat. And this is one. This one's brand new. I've not even opened it up. I was just keeping it in the plastic. I got this one, free one, somewhere. This is a good size to start with if you're going to make small things. Like if you're going to make small little pouches, you want to make small tote bags, you want to make little things like this one's 12 by 18 inches. And then on the back, you've got your centimeters, if your pattern is in centimeters. They flip-flop. Most of them do flip-flop. That's a good size. Okay? Also, the size that I would recommend is the size that I have used the most in my sewing. It is 36 inches long by 24 inches wide. I'm not going to pick it up because I've got it stuck down here. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit bigger, okay? And it covers more of a space. They'll protect your surface, whatever it is you are cutting on. These protect it. They're self-healing cutting mats. They can be very, very expensive. In my book, they can be very expensive. They do last for many, many, many years. You do not want to get them hot. You do not want to leave them in a hot car. You do not want to put an iron on them because they will bubble up, warp up, and then they're history. Don't ask me how I know that, but it does happen. Okay? Both of those things have happened to me. I even left it in front of a window where the sun came in and it got too hot and it ruined my cutting mat. So, with that being said, keep them cool and keep them laying completely flat, okay? But you do want a cutting mat, and I recommend 36 by 24. That should last you to cut just about anything you want to cut, and you should be good. So, your ruler that I recommend, if you can only have one ruler, is 6 by 24. Your cutting mat is 36 by 24, okay? And your rotary cutter, if I'm only going to buy one, it's going to be the 45 millimeter or the 60 millimeter. Either one of those. That's where I would start, okay? Now then, to our sewing machine needles. What kind of machine needles do I need? Well, a lot of that depends on what you're going to sew. But if you're a beginner sewer, the lid come off of my needles here, you all. If you're a beginner sewer, then you need universal needles. And that's usually a 12 or a 14. This right here, universal. A universal needle, the difference between needles, you've got ballpoint needles, right here, Jersey ballpoint needles, and that's just what it is. It's to sew t-shirts, it's to sew knit fabrics, it's to sew on sweaters, it's to sew knitted fabrics, okay? And these are ballpoints. They will not snag that fabric, and they will go between the holes in that knit, okay, without puncturing the actual fabric itself, okay? That's a knit needle. Then you have what they call sharp needles. see, what else have I got here? You've got sharps, which I don't have any that I could show you in a package, but I do have these. These are quilting needles, and these are for your 100% cotton fabrics, your denims. You want to use a 16 or an 18 for a denim or a heavy twill fabric, but you want a sharp needle, okay, for that, and it's got a very sharp point so that it will puncture that fabric, okay? That's what that is. A universal needle. Yes, I use these all the time. The sizes vary, but the needle itself is not a ballpoint. It's not a sharp. It's somewhere in the middle. So you can use these on any kind of fabric, okay? I have used these and tried to stitch on some knit fabrics, and the machine will like skip stitches. If that happens, then you need a knit needle, okay? If something like that is happening and you're using a universal needle, you do need to stop, change your needle, come back, and your machine will probably stitch perfectly again, okay? So those are your 3 types of needles. They have top stitch needles, which I use a universal needle for that. So that's a little info about needles, not a whole lot, but a little bit. The differences in sizes go with the weights of your fabric. The smaller the size of needle, 9, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. 18 is for the heaviest fabrics, your upholstery fabrics, your denims, your heavy twills, your heavy fabrics. Those are your size 16 and 18 needles. And sometimes they will say jeans. Okay, so if you're hemming jeans, a lot of times it will say jeans on it. 9 times out of 10, you're going to use a size 12 or a size 14 needle. Those are the most common. Those are the ones I have used most of the time. But if I'm sewing a garment, such as a formal gown of some sort, a wedding gown, something that has a thin fabric, a sheer fabric, you need a very small needle. And for that, you will go down to a 9, probably. I'm not sure if they go lower than that or not. But you go down as small as you can for those very tiny, very thin sheer fabrics. Because if you don't, it's going to poke a big hole in your fabric and it's going to be ugly. And we don't want that. We've talked about our rulers, but something else we need to measure. This is a measuring tape. Should always have a measuring tape. I like these little ones that roll up because, well, they're just neater to hang on to. Here's just a general measuring tape. It's got inches on one side, centimeters on the other. If you ever watch movies or whatever and you see a tailor tailoring a man's suit, he's got one of these hanging around his neck. And do you know why? It's his most valuable tool. That's why he keeps it around his neck, just like a doctor keeps a stethoscope. A tailor keeps a tape measure because he has to measure. And while we're on the subject of needles, we came off of it to get on our tape measures because I forgot to do that back with our measuring stuff, y'all. I just get on here and ramble away. Hand sewing needles. I hate to hand sew anything. I just do. I used to do counted cross stitch years ago. And I did all kinds of pictures. I did all kinds of things. But I'm not much into hand sewing, although I do small things. But just an assortment of craft needles will get you about any type of a needle you're going to need to do any kind of hand sewing. All right. And while we're talking about needles, what's kin to a needle but a pen? You need some pens. If I'm pinning things, I hate pens. Always have hated pens. If I'm pinning, most of the time I'm using a quilt pen. most of the time, I'm using these quilt pins. I use these mostly to stick things on my wall with, to hang things up, because I've got my walls with my foam board, and you can just stick things up there with the pen, easy peasy. There are different types of pens. The only type I have right now that I can show you are quilt pens, because that's 99% of the time that's what I'm going to use. If you are sewing, again, like I said, a sheer fabric, a very thin fabric, a silk fabric, something to that effect, you need a smaller pen. And they will tell you they are silk pens. They are sewing pens. It will tell you on the package, just like this says quilting pens, it will tell you what you need. But if you're a beginner and you're sewing a tote bag or a pillowcase, these quilt pens will be just fine. Or you can use these handy dandy little clips that I just love. Love, 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 love these little clips. I had never had them till just recently, but I love them. I just will not work without them anymore. I make sure I have plenty of clips handy. I use them for everything. Clip papers together, clip fabric together, clip all kinds of things. Let's talk about our scissors. You need a good pair. You need 2 pair of scissors. 2 pair of scissors. 2 pair of scissors. You need a pair of paper scissors. That's what I call them. Everyday, ordinary, household scissors. The kind that the kids use. Now, I'm not talking about kitty Crayola scissors, safety scissors. I'm talking about the scissors that you clip coupons, or you used to clip coupons out of the paper with. The scissors that you keep in the kitchen to open a package. The scissors just ordinary, everyday scissors. You need a good pair, okay? And that's what I call my paper scissors. And mine are purple, right here. And what I use for that are sewing scissors. These were my best sewing scissors at one time, that have gotten dull, or maybe they've gotten a little nick in them and they don't cut fabric real well anymore. Hence, then they become paper scissors, okay? There are different types of sewing scissors. My favorite type is the razor edge right here. See this right here? It says razor edge Fiskars. Those are my favorite, and that's a brand new pair that I just bought. I've got these Beginner scissors. Had these forever and a day. They need to be cleaned. They need to be oiled. They're still good scissors. They have a kind of a serrated edge on them. They're heavy. They're not cushiony. So if I'm doing a lot of cutting, I don't like to use my Beginner scissors because of that. The mister bought me these scissors probably 15 years ago. That's how old these scissors are. And I still use them. And they're still fabric scissors, okay? This is a smaller pair of razor-edged Fiskars scissors right here. These are the 8-inch ones. Had these for a long, long time. These are still good for cutting fabric. These are fabric scissors. And Lord, I used these the other day for something that I was doing with glue. And I've got that Mod Podge where I had it on my hand. It's all over these scissors. Just look at that. Can y'all see it? Can y'all see all that goo in there? I had to clean that off. These are bent edged scissors, and that will let you come down like this and snip across if you're cutting your width of fabric and you don't have a rotary cutter. This allows you to cut it without having to lift your scissors up off of the cutting mat. These are the same type bent edge scissors, but these are the spring action ones. And these are really good for arthritic hands. They're also good to save this thumb joint right here. Alright, we've done our scissors and our cutting. We know all about what we need to cut with. I'm trying to move this stuff out of the way. Now then, you need an iron and an ironing board or an ironing mat. Most of us already have an ironing board in our homes somewhere. And for eons, years and years, I used the ironing board as my cutting board, my cutting table. I used the ironing board to iron on. I mean, especially when I was making my daughter clothes, I didn't have a sewing room. I didn't have a sewing space. It was in my bedroom. I had my machine sitting over here in front of a window, and my serger sitting on top of the dresser, and my ironing board sat over here. It was just in my bedroom, you all. And I made her a wardrobe after wardrobe of clothes, just like that. You don't need a dedicated space. Use your dining room if you've got a formal dining room, and if you're like me, you use it at Christmas and maybe Easter, maybe Thanksgiving. Christmas is the only time I've used it in over a year. I didn't use it Easter last year or Thanksgiving. We ate in the kitchen. And we will probably eat in the kitchen Easter this year because it's just going to be the four of us. And it's just easier on me to eat in the kitchen. So, take your dining room table, set your machine up on it, another side of it, cut on. I mean, you know, that just set you an ironing board and iron up. When I was living at home with my mama and my daddy before I got married, and I'd sew in the kitchen. I'd set the iron and the ironing board up in the kitchen, take them down when we got ready to eat. That's the way I did it for years. It's just been in the last maybe 10 years that I even had a dedicated sewing space. So you do not have to have a dedicated sewing space. And when we first moved into this house, I didn't have one. I sewed at the kitchen table. I've got wool pressing mats. I've got actually 4 of these, all 4 different sizes. This one is 17 by about 14 by 17, 13 by 17, something like that. And all it is wool that's been compressed and sheeted and stuck together, and I don't know how they make them, but you can tell that it's like in little layers, and it's been cut out. It's just wool. Okay? And they do make great pressing mats. I've got that one. I've got this one that I think is like 8. This one right here is 10 inches square. And here's one that's never even been opened. It's probably 12 or 14. It's 12 inches square. And then I've got another one over here that is bigger. It is, and I'm just going to measure it because rather than pick it up. It's 18 by 24. Okay? So, a wool pressing mat. If you're going to be pressing small things like quilt blocks and things of that nature, I do find this very handy. You do not have to get up and move to press. You can sit it beside your machine and press and not have to get up. It's just a time saver. Do you have to have it? No. Did I have one until just a couple months ago? No. I did use my tabletop ironing board a lot, but I just had my ironing board set up. I just had my ironing board setting up, and it did fine. Most people prefer just to press on a large ironing board. I prefer that, but I don't have room to leave it sitting up all the time in this space that I have. So there's where I use my tabletop one or my wool pressing mats. That's why I bought these, because I didn't have room for my big ironing board to set up all the time. If you have room to use your big ironing board, use it. It's really it's really better. Y'all, the air's coming through here, and my curtain's blown out like a sail on a sailboat. Be a good day to be on the lake on a sailboat, wouldn't it? Sun's out. It's going to be about 85 degrees today. Oh my goodness. Beautiful, beautiful spring day. Beautiful spring day. And Mr. Andy is fighting with allergies like crazy. Crazy, crazy. He's miserable, you all. If y'all ever say a prayer for him, this allergy season is a short one, because every year he's miserable with allergies. The year that Macy played t-ball, they were little. We couldn't even bring him to the ball field. His eyes would swell shut after we got to the ball field. We're there about 5 minutes because there was something there blooming. He's just always had really horrible allergies. All right, now we've got our pressing out of the way. Use your household iron. You don't need a special iron. I did just buy this one, and you all saw it in another video, this cordless one. I do really like it. Go to Walmart or Target and just buy you a good iron. You don't need a fancy, expensive iron. I don't even know whether I would enjoy one, because I've never had one. So if you all have got one of these expensive irons, let me know what you like or dislike, or how it compares to just a regular iron, and let me know if maybe I need to try one. But just something I never saw the wisdom in spending that kind of money. I had to have a Rowenta iron years and years and years ago, and they were very expensive. I think about $150. And I said, they're supposed to be so much better. That Mr. bought me one for Christmas that year. I was thrilled to death to get that iron. It didn't last a year. Did not last 1 year, and it was the history. And I'm like, you know what? And then I think I went and bought just whatever I could buy at Target or Walmart, and it lasted until just recently, and I had to buy a new one. So, don't sweat over an expensive iron. You do not need an expensive iron. You need one more thing that I can think of that I just really think that you need, especially if you're going to be doing any kind of applique work, or anything really. You need something to mark on your fabric with. Here's some tailor's chalk. I'll show y'all what it is. Here it is. It comes in all these colors. And it is just what it says it is. It's chalk. See? It's just chalk. So, can y'all see that good? Yeah, you can see that. Blue and yellow and pink. And it's just chalk. It's great to have in your sewing room. It's very inexpensive. It brushes off. It washes out. It's really good if you're doing garment sewing, to mark darts, to mark pleats, to mark things like that. Something that I have just discovered recently are these heat erasable pens. They come with little refills, and then the little pen thing. They come in all different colors, green, orange, blue, white. Although for dark fabrics, the white chalk really works the best. I've not found a white pen or white marker or white pencil that I've found that work well. Something else that I really like, let's see if I've got one in here. I know I've got some. I didn't get them out. Are the water soluble blue markers. You all have seen me use those several times. I really like those a lot because the marks stay until you put water on it, and then they disappear. They also make air markers that after it's on there for so long it disappears. I'm not a fan because I tend to not get my project done before it disappears. I like my chalk, my heat erasables, and my water soluble blue markers. If I had to choose one, I'd probably go with my water soluble marker. And they're a couple dollars, so they're not expensive. Your Taylor's chalk is not expensive. I think you get one of these little things here that's got enough to last you a year or two or three, or for a long, long time anyway, for just a few dollars. Mr. Andy's outside, bless his heart. He's happy, but his poor little eyes on, yeah, they're just as red as they can be. And you need to baste things occasionally. Stick them down for whatever reason. If you're doing a pleat, if you're doing a dart, if you're doing whatever and you need it to stick. Elmer's washable school glue. Y'all see me use it all the time. The purple. Goes on purple, dries clear, washes out. I love this stuff. I use glue sticks all the time in my sewing. I love it for my appliques, my small pieces, anything like that. I really, really, really like my glue sticks. So those are some things that I have in my sewing room that I absolutely love, and some things that I'm not a fan of. Some things that are worth the money, some things that I really don't feel are worth the money. You need a pin cushion or something to keep your pins in. You can buy decorative ones, and I've got 2 or 3 of these. These are old little pin cushions. You can make you a pin cushion. The most common is a tomato, and I had to put mine up because Coco thought it was a ball and was having a fit for it, so I had to hide it. But I've got a couple of tomato pin cushions. Our mamas all had the tomatoes, and there's a story behind that. I can't remember it right offhand. I'll try to look it up, or you go look it up. The tomato pin cushion, the story behind the tomato pin cushion. But there's a story behind that tomato pin cushion. I always liked them just because I like tomatoes. I do. I love tomatoes. Love, love, love tomatoes. So those are the things that I have, that I use, that I don't use, that I can't live without, that I use very rarely. You need good lighting. So you know, a window is good, but you don't want to store your fabric in front of a window. It will fade. So you kind of want to keep it away from the windows. But to sew in front of a window, I've always loved to sew in front of a window. Trying to think if I've missed anything, if I left anything out. Can't think of anything that I've left out that I just have to have or can't live without or whatever. These are the things I use the most, that I want to keep where I can get my hands on them. My 2 rulers, like I said, you all see me use those all the time. I've got multiple rulers. I've got rulers that cut circles, rulers that cut half circles, rulers that triangle rulers. I've got square rulers, anywhere from 14, 15, 16, 17 inch squares, you know, down to 2.5 inch squares and so forth. Do I use those a lot? I really don't. I use them at times, but I've collected this stuff over the years, to the point now when I go into a quilt shop or a fabric store, or you know, somewhere, and I'm starting to look at things, I'm like, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that. I don't need that. I would never use that. And you will learn the things that you use, that you enjoy, that you use the most, the things you want multiples of, the things that you're like, I really do not see me ever needing that. And the more you sew, the more you learn, the more you will understand what purpose different things have. I've got a couple of rulers that are triangles that I think I bought when we had a local quilt shop that went out of business, and I bought them for a little or nothing, but I honestly have never had the need for them. I have never used them. I have them, but I've never used them. So, with that being said, you will figure out the things that you use, that you need, that you like, that you enjoy. So, like I said, the mistress is making me some shelving to go at the end of one of my tables and to go back there. And I might possibly get him to build me another one to go under the table. Yes, I think I could use that one. Yeah, and I need a larger quilt rack, ruler rack. I've got that big one sitting down here on the floor under the table because that's really the only place I have to put it right now. So it's under the table because that's the only place I have to put it is on the floor. Eek! I know. I've got more floor space over here and I've got more table space over here, but I don't have as much storage space over here. So I've got to figure it all out, but I'm working on it, getting it, everything put and deciding exactly where I want things to be and how I want things to be and that sort of thing. But I'm getting there, I'm getting there. And I'm thinking more and more, I'm going to move this machine to that table and possibly move that cutting mat and so forth over to here. So this is the side that we will cut on, and then we'll go over there on that side to sew, possibly. I had originally thought sew here, serger here, cut over there, and we still might do that. I don't know, you all. I just don't know. I don't know where we're going to be or how we're going to be. I just don't. So with all that being said, I'm going to wrap this one up. And y'all, I wish you would share these videos out on Instagram, share them on Facebook, share them on Twitter, share them on your YouTube, share them on social media of any kind that y'all have. I know there's other apps out there that somebody told me about that I had never even heard of. Pinterest, put them on Pinterest. People will watch them off of Pinterest. They will be very intrigued. But I'd really like to get more subscribers and more viewers. It seems like we're dwindling. Of course, the time of the year may play a part in that. People are outside a little bit more. They're not watching in the house quite as much. They're outside working in their yards and cleaning their flower beds and planting their gardens and all that good fun springtime stuff, which I love to do, and I need to do some of it, but it's just not quite that time yet. Got a few more weeks before we can get out and do anything like that. So but I promised Mr. Andy we'd plant some squash, some cucumbers, and some watermelons. I did. And those seem to be easy for me to grow. Other things I just do not do well with. But I can grow cucumbers, squash, and watermelons. Tomatoes, I just do not do well growing tomatoes. I've tried it, and I've had to buy tomatoes every year, and the ones that I do grow do not taste very good for whatever reason. So therefore, I will be buying my tomatoes again this year. Still have a few left from last year, but not a lot. We've about gone through all of our tomatoes. And we do every year. I put up probably $250, $300 of tomatoes every year, and we use them in chili, in soups, in spaghetti, in anything that is a tomato base. I use my canned tomatoes. And I did not make it with y'all last year, but I promised to make bacon tomato jam. I need to make more salsa, more pizza sauce this year. We used all of that really quickly. I got to make more pizza sauce than I did last year, lots more. So all that's coming too. So y'all stay tuned. Hang out with me here in the sewing room. I'm going to get ready here in a minute and get all this cleaned up. And we're going to do a couple of quick projects because I've been behind on videos because I've been trying to get everything moved up here and situated. And I think I have it now, so we're going to try our best to get some things situated and going, okay? So I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.